Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Asari.
Good morning. Good to see you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Looking forward to it.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. After speaking to you briefly a few days ago, um, the knowledge that you were coming with, you were bringing to the table about different avenues of life. I know that when it comes to business, you're literally gonna bring the good stuff. So I'm really excited for whoever's listening, whoever's watching, especially the practical tips and the practical nuggets that people will be able to take from this conversation and implement straight away. So I'm really excited for this one. Have you had your breakfast today?
Yeah, I'm eating. I'm fueled up. I'm ready to rock.
All right, there we go. So just to go straight in, I want to get a bit of background about yourself and about who you are. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and the journey that just brought you to where you are as a business and as an action coach?
Yeah, certainly. It's an unusual route for many because I came through public service. So I was in public service for the first 25 years of my career. So I started work back in 1985. Born and grew up in London. So I worked for local authorities. So I was worked in housing management. Funny enough, so I was actually a manager pretty young. So I started in management back 1990s. That shows how old I am, doesn't it? But I started as a manager, and I got my first management job at Waltham Forest back in 1990, and so I've got a lot of management experience. So that's where the first bit came from. So as soon as I got my management role, I asked to do a management training. So I did Open University management course, Open University for 2 years. So that was really fabulous. Just gave me the basics of managing people, budgets, systems, and all that sort of stuff. And then later in my career, I was at the Audit Commission where I used to inspect councils. So I had a great, it was almost like a forerunner to being a consultant in a sense, because you go into a local authority and you are bonding very quickly. You've got to connect with the senior officers and the politicians and the staff and interview them and do all the background reading and everything and do the inspections, which I absolutely loved. But something happened in 2008. I decided, you know what, I've got to think future. I want to go to Africa. I want to explore the world. I want an MBA so I can go different places. So a master's in business administration. So I did my master's in business administration and graduated 2008. So I went to Aston University Business School, which has the 3 accreditation. So fantastic. And then ActionCOACH came knocking. They must have got my name from somewhere. And they contacted me and said, it's not a job, but there's a business opportunity. Would you be interested in talking more? So I thought, yeah, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. That was back in around 2008. But the circumstances weren't quite right for me then. I had a very high paid job, very good job. You know, my wife, married, couple of children, couple of company cars on the driveway. Everything was looking cool. And to leave that to open a business seemed a bit risky. So I said no, but we went all the way to due diligence, found out a lot about ActionCOACH. But then 3 years later, everything turned upside down. I was separating from my wife. I lost my job. So I got made redundant in 2010. Told we were getting redundant in 2010, but actually got redundant in 2011. So literally 11 years ago this month, I was getting ready to fly on a plane to Vegas to do my ActionCOACH training for 2 weeks. And that was the beginning of my business journey. So I always thought I would be a consultant in the public sector because of my management experience, my knowledge of equality, diversity, all that stuff. But everything changed when I met ActionCOACH. It showed me a system of how to work with businesses, taught me a lot more about business. And I was always reading about business. And as I said, when they came knocking, by 2011, they were still in contact with me and they said, sounds like a good time to go in to become an ActionCOACH. And that was it. 11 years later, I'm here. That was my journey.
Well, normally when people say they go to Vegas, it's for other things, but your journey was different. Just to follow on from that, what's your background in business? What has been your experience and the things that why business? Why coaching? What made you get into that?
Yeah, I think I've always had a passion for helping others. So that's why I kind of thought I'd be a consultant or something like that. managing other people and finding effective outcomes, delivering services. I always thought, this is fantastic. And when I saw the model that ActionCOACH had, which has been developed massively since then, but the core 6 steps model, it's so simple, but it's genius at the same time. And our 6 steps model, we show business owners in a structured way how you can move your business from one level to another, from mastering the basics all the way up to leverage, team development, etc., so business can work without you. So I also had a passion for business. I always thought I want to open a business, but I didn't really know what business was. I used to think a lot of business people, are they greedy, rich people who just make a load of money out of people? And then you come to realize that most businesses, the vast majority of businesses, are just family owned, either independent or small family businesses that are just trying to make a living for their family. And some make it big, but only 10% ever get over 1 million. So that was my passion, to help other people. I always wanted to help other people. And I thought this coaching would be fantastic at helping people to achieve their dreams, which is to have a business that can give them the things that they weren't getting from the work. So that's why I became a business coach.
Yeah. And hopefully throughout this conversation today, I'm begging you that you'll be able to share some experiences or some testimonials of different accounts that you've helped
Absolutely.
people from different levels and stuff like that. So going to go straight in. Is it essential for a business to have a business plan?
No, it's not essential, but it's a good idea. So it's a bit like, you can build a house without plans, but I wouldn't recommend it. Does that make sense? So it doesn't mean you can't build a decent house and you don't have it in your head and all the rest of it. But put it this way, if I said to you or the people listening in or watching in right now, I've got a great business idea. I want you to take your hard-earned money. I want you to remortgage your house and give me some money. But I don't have a plan. I just have an idea. What would you say? Most people will go, you're bonkers, right? No, there's no way you're getting my money unless you've got a plan. You've got something written down. So the point is, if you wouldn't invest in somebody else that doesn't have a plan, or at least a sketch out, a decent outline of what you want to achieve, by when, by how much money, what customers they're going to have, what's your market, etc. If you didn't have that, would you invest your money in them? And if you wouldn't invest your money in them, guess what? We're crazy enough as business owners, many business owners, that's exactly what you do. You go and open a business, put your hard-earned money, risk your house, risk your divorce, risk all sorts of things to open a business with no plan. Now, it's crazy, but people do it because it's easy to do. It's easy to open a business in the UK and just start trading. You can just register as a sole trader with HMRC or have a company's house. It's easy to do it in a day for a tenner. And you've got a business and you can just start trading. You just open a business account somewhere. Some people don't even have a business account. They just put the money in their own account, which is not a good idea. So it's so easy to get into business, but to have some kind of plan, some kind of goals, some kind of stuff written down is a better way to do it. So lots of businesses go into all sorts of drift and get into all sorts of problems because there wasn't a clear plan and there wasn't a clear goal at the beginning. But certainly you can be successful because earning money, if that's what you call success, then earning money is possible. But real success, if you're drowning in the business, working so many ridiculous hours, getting into all sorts of issues with the government, with the HMRC, etc., well, that is not a great way to do it. So I would suggest you have some kind of plan, but you don't need a formal business plan unless you're going for finance. So there's much easier, much simpler templates that we can help you with in terms of planning. So all my clients, I expect them to have a 90-day plan, which is on a single sheet of paper. But it's not the sheet of paper in itself, it's the work they do behind it and the thinking to get to that plan that really helps them get clarity in their business. So when they spend a few hours with me and we go through their goals and their aims and what they want for their family when they want to retire, it's that thinking that really goes, wow, okay, yeah, that's why I realized I need to earn this. I thought 30,000 was enough, but when they say they want a Range Rover and a yacht, obviously 30,000 not enough, etc. So it's that clarity it gives you by having the conversations and speaking out loud and actually getting somebody to challenge you and say, right, okay, so we need a business to be like this because you just said to me you need more time with the family, or you want a business that you can sell, or you want to take on staff, whatever it is you say. And that's why you do need some kind of plan.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
just to add on to what you just said there, to quote a historical and even a biblical reference, I think it says somewhere that write the vision and make it plain. So those that are running with you will actually understand, and you too yourself will understand where you're actually going as well. So
Absolutely.
just to add off the back of what you just said there, from your experience, what are some of the scenarios that you've seen where a business has struggled because they didn't have a plan?
So many different situations. You see, most people get into business. We have something called the Billionaire in Training. This is one of the great books that Brad Sugars, he's the founder of ActionCOACH, wrote. Billionaire in Training. It's an excellent book. I recommend people read. He has something called the Entrepreneurial Ladder, and what he basically says, which follows on from this book, which is the first book we give people to read, the E-myth, the myth of the entrepreneur. Basically, why most businesses don't work and what to do about it. And these two combination is the entrepreneurial ladder says that most people are not entrepreneurs. To become an entrepreneur, there's loads of steps you need to take. And that's the fundamental mistake so many people make. So most people are on the trainee apprentice level. When they start a business, you're literally a sole trader, right? You either work for somebody or you're a student, then you work for somebody. So even base number one is having a job. That's the first step on an entrepreneurial ladder, because when you have a job, you can start learning the steps of what business is like. Even if you're in the public sector, you can learn the basics of, budgeting and providing services, etc., etc. And then you start to work for yourself, self-employed. So you're only on step two. So to get to the stage where you actually have a business that works without you is way up the ladder, which a lot of people don't realize. So most people get into business. What Brad Sugars and others identified is most people get into business because you have a skill, or you're good at something, or people around you say, oh, you're good at baking cakes, so why don't you go and open a company baking cakes? Or you're a good plumber, why don't you work for yourself? Why are you working for that guy who's not paying you properly? So that's what happens. Or you get made redundant, or something happens that triggers that idea to start a business. And why people get into trouble so early is because the fundamentals understanding of what business is all about, like cash flow, marketing, and all the other aspects that people don't realize you need in business are not in place. So you become what you call a technician. And that's what this book talks about as well. You become a technician, which is the self-employed level of the entrepreneurial ladder. So, and what I mean by technician is you're brilliant at doing hair, you're brilliant at being a plumber, you're brilliant at being a lawyer or whatever it is. But what do you know about business? What do you know about marketing? What do you know about recruitment? What do you know about cash flow? What do you know about taxation? What do you know about any of these issues? And therefore, what you get into trouble very early is not putting money aside for taxes, not considering, long-term strategy. Who is your actual target market? There's so many questions to answer that we can help startups and people at the beginning of their journey. And what most people say to me, Asari, I'm too new in business. I don't need a coach. Big mistake. It's like building a house and saying, I don't need an architect because I'm just starting. It doesn't make any sense, right? I don't need a builder.
Yeah,
I do it myself. No,
yeah,
actually, the best time to get an architect and an expert in is when you're building the foundations, when you're actually starting the business. Because if you get the foundations wrong, it could be very expensive to put it right. So if
yeah,
you've invested in a restaurant, classically you spend £100,000 on a restaurant, refurbishing it, putting new kitchen, making it look beautiful, got Asari's name at the front, and then you get no customers. You can't understand why you're not making any money. But you've already invested a huge amount of money. You might have had a lease for 10 years that you're committed to having to pay this lease. You've got to pay the council taxes, business taxes. You've got staff. You've got all these overheads, and you haven't got a plan. And this is the danger with getting into business without planning. So I've seen so many scenarios where people get into difficulty. Trades generally do well because it's you and your toolkit and your van, and you can make
yeah,
enough money and make a decent living without much commitment. You don't need an office. You don't need a warehouse. You don't need staff. You can just get on with it. So trade's usually okay. But as soon as you get to that stage where you're working too many hours, there becomes a bit of a pressure point now. Do you take on another member of staff, or do you just work every hour of the day? Because how do you earn more money when you just get paid for the hours you work? The only way you can earn more money is just work harder. And that's what kills most people. Just working harder is not really the way to build a successful business.
yeah,
So that's the
yeah.
trouble. That's so many examples of what people get difficulty.
I just want to add, there's an analogy that I saw on LinkedIn this week, actually, about the importance of having a mentor or a coach, even at the start or just throughout your business. And the picture that was on LinkedIn was there was a lady who was drowning at the bottom of a swimming pool. She was doing some diving championships, and her coach, who's been coaching her right from a young age, recognized that this young lady has not come out of she's sinking. She's not here. But because the coach had experience working with her in the first place, or knew that it's got to the time where she should be up right now, the coach jumped into the pool just before the person potentially died, because he knew from experience that if this girl hasn't come up, then there's something happening here. So the importance of the coach in that scenario, the coach saved the girl's life. So going back to what you said, if there's a coach at the early stage of a business, or even throughout the business stage, they can protect you from making mistakes or save you a lot of money, because they've been through that. They've got the scars to show from it. They've got experience to fall back on. They can allow you to dodge bullets that they've taken on from their own experiences. So yeah, just to add to what you just said there as well.
Absolutely.
So moving on, just to flip this over, from your experience again, what sort of businesses that do have a plan? Why do businesses that do have a plan sometimes struggle?
Yeah, well, it's like anything in life. You can have a plan to be a millionaire. You can have a plan to run the Olympics. You can have a plan to do anything. But sometimes stuff gets in the way. Sometimes the plan wasn't well written. Sometimes you didn't think things through. It's like having children, right? You plan to have children and you think everything will go smooth. The child gets sick, or, just stuff happens, right? It's like when my children were young, you're getting ready for work. Everything's on time. Getting the child ready, all their bags packed, everything's good to go. We're nice and early, and then they poo themselves, right? They mess up their clothes, and you got to change all their clothes, give them a wash, and start all over again. That might take you 20, 30 minutes. Now you're late. So life has a tendency, and business has a tendency for strange things to happen that you don't expect. I mean, who thought COVID was going to happen? Yeah. Recessions happen, markets crash, things happen that you didn't predict. You could have had a restaurant imagine you're a tourist. Here's a great one. The tourist industry, right? All the projections in the tourist industry worldwide was huge growth. People were buying airplanes, investing in tourism in all around the world. And COVID came and not only hit one country, it hit the whole world at the same time, almost devastated the whole tourist industry, literally to the point where pilots couldn't even get a job. Well, so you can never be 100% sure in a business what could happen. So sometimes you go off beam. But usually, many business owners don't stick to the plan. I don't think I've met many business owners who wrote a plan and actually read it afterwards. So it's kind of like you wrote it because somebody said you should write it, like the business coach or a bank or the person lending you money said to write it. But once you wrote it, you just put it on a shelf and just got on with it. You didn't actually follow it. And also, many plans are written in a marketing context. So they're written to convince somebody to invest in you, which is not the same as the details of how you're actually going to implement it. And that's why we supply plan or support you to draft a plan of what you're going to actually do. So it's like saying, I'm going to do marketing to raise money. Okay, what specifically? Right, I'm going to use social media. Yeah, but what? I'm going to go on Facebook, and I'm going to go WhatsApp, and I'm going to use Instagram. Okay, how many times are you going to post a week? Not sure. What are you going to post? What do you want somebody to do when they see your post or read your post? How are you going to get a client from your post? Oh, they're going to go to our website. What does your website say? Oh, the website says contact me. Oh, so when people are looking at your website to now, in between the Champions League game, and they look at your website at 9:00 at night and it says contact me, are they going to ring you? No. Are they going to leave their details? No. So what happens is the implementation is stalled because often the strategy is not got a proper systems in place and activity in place to make it really happen. And also there's lots of delusional information on YouTube and God knows where that doesn't help necessarily you open a business. Everybody says, go on social media, get a website, go on social media. If you go on social media, you'll be fine. But many people don't realize your business is local and social media can attract people to you. But if you don't know what you're doing, Getting liked by somebody in Brazil, somebody in Nigeria, somebody in Newcastle, somebody even in South London is of no use to you when you've got a restaurant in Chingford. Yeah, when you've got a restaurant in Chingford, most of your customers are going to be local because you're not providing a service that is on the internet. Yeah, you can book a table via the internet, but you have to physically go to the restaurant. Now, most people do not go to a local high street restaurant unless it's a special occasion that's not local to you. Yeah, why would I travel an hour across London to go to a restaurant just on a normal day of the week? Most people don't do this unless it's a leave-in do, somebody's birthday, a special occasion. Most people won't look for a restaurant on the other side of town. You might go central London because central London's a different vibe, right? But you wouldn't go to Brixton High Street to a restaurant just on a Tuesday evening just because I just feel like going there. That doesn't happen, or it very rarely happens. Most people are within a reasonable radius of your restaurant. So Friday, Saturday night, great. Sunday lunch or dinner is lovely, yes. The rest of the day, dead. Monday to Thursday, dead. Because hardly anybody goes to restaurants on Monday to Thursday unless you can find a way of getting those local people in there. So this is the reason why so often things go wrong, because the implementation is not thought through properly. And also people aren't trained. It's not people's fault. It's not business owners' fault, this. Business owners are not trained. It's not taught in schools.
Yeah. I guess this leads me on to the next question. So we have a business plan and we have a business development strategy, which is, I feel like is what you're talking about there. So the business development strategy is the day-to-day activities, or the 1, 2, 3s, or the key bullet points to actually make the business plan come to life. Is that what you'd say?
Literally should be, yes. And that's the thing. So when we do our 90-day plans, we literally say, what's your 3 or 4 goals you want to achieve in the next 3 months? So between October, November, December, by the end of this year, what do you want to achieve? And I literally asked that to somebody, literally, how much money do you want to earn between October, November, December? And then in December, we'll be saying the same. January, February, March, what do you want to earn? So we start with big picture. So you might say, because a business plan can be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It could be massive, It depends on how old you are and when do you see your business finishing. Brad Sugars has a great question. He says, what will your business look like when it's finished? And a lot of people look at you when you ask that question. What on earth is he going on about? What do you mean when it's finished? Well, the great thing about business is the money in business is when you sell it. That's the big money in business. Lots of people don't understand this. They just have an ego trip of just having a business with your name on the top. But actually, the money is made in business is 2 things. You either make money in business to invest in other things. Most rich people get rich through business and then use the profits to invest in other things that make them rich. So if you look at Alan Sugar, because you might not be so familiar with Brad, because Brad owns ActionCOACH, but Alan Sugar in this country is more well known in the sense that he's a local, he's a British businessman. He's been on The Apprentice and all that. But if you look at Alan Sugar, he got his initial wealth from Amstrad and his products, right? His electronic products. But his massive wealth is from the profits he took from that and invested in property, commercial property, airline, private jets and all that stuff. That's where he really made his big money. So he became a billionaire through that, his investments. And that's what a true entrepreneur does. You earn enough to be able to do that. So that's why we need to have those activities in place to actually say what you're literally going to do. So if you're going to do marketing, what are your strategies? Have you got 3 or 4 strategies, 5 strategies in marketing? How are you going to implement each one? And who's going to do it? And how much is it going to cost? So it's that level of detail that we work with business owners on to get them to have that level of detail so they really know next Monday or tomorrow, literally, what am I going to do? And that's what you call a proper plan. Like a football club. We use a lot of sports analogies, is that if you support a football club and the coach said, we don't have a plan, we're just kind of going to play it from week to week, you would say it's madness. You say you got to have some kind of plan, some kind of strategy. Yeah. But literally, what are you going to do on the pitch tonight in the Champions League? Literally, what are you going to do? How are you going to play? What's your formation? So you need to have that level of detail. Otherwise, you're just hoping for the best, which is unfortunately what a lot of people do, just hope for the best. But hoping for the best is not a great strategy.
Yeah. So what does a business development strategy or an action plan, what does it require?
Yes.
If I came to you and you said, okay, go away, do the 90-day plan, what does that business development strategy actually require?
Typically, the first thing I ask you is how much do you want to earn in the next period, whatever the plan period is. Let's say it's 3 months, right? So what do you want to earn between now and the end of January? So the next 3 months, how much do you want to earn? Is it 30 grand, 5 grand, 200 grand, 1 million, whatever the figure is, how much do you want to earn between now and then? And then what we do is break that down into the products and services you have to how many XYZs do you need to sell? So how many clients do you need paying you X per month, or how many products selling candles? For example, I've got a couple of clients that sell candles. So if they want to earn 100 grand in the next 3 months, for argument's sake, if your average cost of a candle is, let's say £50 to make it simple, right? £50 candle. So how many candles do you need to sell to make 100 grand, right? So you need to sell what? You need to sell 2,000 candles, right? 2,000 candles at 50 quid to make your £100,000. So 2,000 candles, let's break that down. So how many weeks we got? We got 3 months. So you need to be selling about what? So we said, what did you say? 2,000. So we've got about 800, 700 candles a month, something like that. So what it does is you start to make it meaningful to the business owner, because sometimes when they say they want to earn a certain figure, it doesn't have any meaning to it because it's just a figure from the sky. But when you break it into sales, then they start to think, okay, to sell 2,000 candles in 3 months, but how many you sold last 3 months? 10 or 200 or whatever. So what it then puts it puts a bit of realism in your mind to say, well, if I only sold 200 last month or 100 last month, how are we going to sell 2,000 in the next 3 months? We need some radical change to our marketing. Or is the price too high? Is the mix wrong? Do we need to scale up and go to Morrison's, go to John Lewis, go to whoever? So you have to, it changes the way you think. So that's the first thing. Know how much you want to make. And then I hope you break it down into how many sales that needs. Now, sometimes that means you modify it because you go, sorry, I don't think I can do 2,000 sales. Okay, so how many sales do you think you can do? Well, I think I could do 1,000, but 2,000 is too much of a stretch. Okay, so we modify it to 50 grand. And therefore, you then become more realistic. Then we break it down and say, well, how are you going to do this? What's your marketing strategies that you need to put in place? But there may be a few other things you need to put in place, like systems, to make it happen. So, for example, if you're making the candles in your home, and I say to you, if John Lewis said to you tomorrow, could you send us 1,000 candles? How long would it take you to make them? So these are the systems or the back office things you have to get in place, because yes, you want to sell 1,000 candles or however many candles, but you need to know either you've got the stock or how long it takes you to produce them. So if you did have that big rise in sales and Christmas is coming as well, could you cope with the orders? And also, are you doing this full time? So who's going to do it? Who's literally going to send it to them in the post? So if you're working full time and you're only going to do it in the evening, when are you going to go to the post office and send them? So all these details need to be in place. So it's not just having the marketing, but knowing that you have the systems behind the scenes. And it doesn't mean complicated systems. It could be literally just who is going to literally put the candle in the box and post it, and who's going to make a note of that, so we know who's ordered and where does it go and how long it goes. Just it doesn't have to be too complicated, but you need some system, because you can see you're going to get into chaos. If 100 people order in the next month and you haven't got these things in place, people are going to be complaining, oh, I spent my money, you haven't sent me my candle, or it got broken, all these different factors. So those are the key elements in a plan you need to have, is the how much money, systems and structures you need behind it, what's the marketing you need to do, and is there any other issues like investing in marketing, staffing, etc., that you need to put in place to make sure you have the capacity to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. If you do services, it's much easier, because if you're just a one person, then it's you. So you don't need to get too complicated about vans and staff and offices and all the rest of it. So when it's products, it can be a little bit more, you need to have a little bit more systems in place if you're doing products, because it's quick, fast sales and you need to send them out. When it's services, it's more ringing people, making appointments. So that's the kind of critical things you need in there.
That sounds, what you just covered there, I'm sure you're aware of the acronym, the SMART acronym, very, very similar. So I've got it here, just to sound and look prepared. The SMART acronym being so set a specific, a sensible, and a simple target. So what you're talking about there in regards to how much would you like to make? How much? What's the end goal? What's the end target? And the M in the SMART being measurable. And what if it's 2,000? What do you need to do to attain that 2,000? Can you not do that 2,000? You can only do 1,000. Okay, that's more reasonable. That's more measurable. The A for in the SMART acronym is achievable and attainable. The R being relevant, reasonable, and realistic. So what you were talking about there, or even resourced as well. So if you don't have the capacity, if you're getting 1,000 orders in and you don't have the capacity to fulfill those orders, then you're gonna have to probably get a few hands to help you out there. Otherwise,
and that R,
things could.
That R is one of the most crucial R's that people tend to not understand. So typical SMART means realistic. The problem with the word realistic is if it's achievable, it's realistic. So the A and the R is basically repeating itself. So what we say is that R should be resourced, because as you said, when I gave the example of the candles, it's the resource in it, is how are you resourcing what you're going to do? What's the penalty you got to pay? You know, Brian Tracy says you can achieve any goal you want, but are you willing to pay the price? The price is usually time and money. What price are you willing to put on to make that happen and to deliver it, as you said? So that's where it's really important. And people don't always want to invest. Marketing should be an investment. So you should be able to say how much money I put in this end produces how much money the other end. So one of the other things we ask you to do is measure your marketing strategies and see what marketing strategies bring in what return, so you can see a direct correlation between a strategy that you've implemented. So if you've put money into Google adverts or a website or whatever, then if people have spent X amount on your Google ads and you haven't had a return on the investment, then it's not working very well. Either you change it and modify it and test it again, or you scrap it and say, look, this is not bringing the return, so it's not worth the money I'm spending.
Yeah. For a business owner, just off the back of what you said, for any business owner that comes into, let's say, I have a candle product and I want to get it out to the whole of England, but I may not have the marketing budget to get it out to the whole of England. What would you say to that person who may not have the budget to get it to the whole world? Where should that person start off?
Well, yeah, I would say, the good thing with the UK is we actually have a decent postal system. I mean, there's arguments about, is the postal system proper? Will it get there? But as long as you don't set timescales that are too tight, like don't compare yourself to Amazon. Most people don't want an urgent product. I say most people. I'm not saying you don't occasionally need something, right, I need it tomorrow urgently. But what I'm saying is most luxury type products that are things like candles, you don't literally need it tomorrow. Maybe if it was just before Christmas, you might have urgent orders. But generally speaking, if you say 3 working days, that's fine. Okay. So the UK postal system is decent enough that if you commit 3 working days, you probably can get it to people in 3 working days. Okay. So that's fine. The bit about capacity is probably not that bit, as long as you either decide, are you going to take the postage cost or are you going to pass it on to the customer? Either way, you pass it on to the customer in some way. What I would advise, though, is that you include it in the price, because people don't like going to the cart. So here's a tip for you. People don't like going to the cart and then find you got to put £5 on for postage. People don't like that. So if the candle's for £50 and free postage, that's fine. But if it was £45 plus £5 postage, it annoys people, because in their mind, they've got £45. And then you tell them £5 and they think, whoa, why am I paying this extra £5? You said it was 45, now I've got to pay 50. But if you just said it was 50 at the beginning, I would make a decision. Do I want it for 50? And I'll just buy it. But people don't like this extras. Anybody gone with Ryanair? And people hate it when you say the flight was £25 and then before I finish, it was 150. You think, hang on a minute, did you conned me here? I can't really get on this plane for 25 quid. So people don't
Yeah.
like all these extras. They like, just tell me it's £100 and I pay £100 for the flight, but don't tell me it's 25. And then by the time I finish, it's 100. People feel you're being conned somehow. So yeah, that's not a good one. So unless your products are very cheap, so when I say cheap, like a £5 product or something like that, very, very low cost. And usually if it's very cheap, it's very light. So postage can be very small amounts. But generally, even on Amazon, how many of us use Amazon? If you go on Amazon and buy something and they add the postage on it still irritates people. Even if it was only £5 and they added on 2, people still get irritated by the extra £2. They just think, why didn't you just tell me it was £7? So it's best to just tell people how much it is, and that's it. Anybody been in a shop? This is another tip for you. How many times you've been in a shop and there's no price? Even in Sainsbury's or Tesco and you get no price, it just annoys you because you think, well, how do I make a buying decision if there's no price on it? So sometimes you just leave it because you can't be bothered to ask somebody. So in private shops, I recommend people put prices because buyers make decisions on prices. If you don't put a price, they'll walk out. They will not necessarily ask you. They just walk away. So pricing is really important. Who goes on the internet and doesn't have a price? You have to wait until you put it in the basket to find out the price. That will just annoy you. So tell people the price, let them make a decision.
Another scenario, just to add to what we're talking about. So that was a candle business. Let's say you have a marketing agency. You're a videographer, photographer. You have a wedding services business. Would you advise them to also put their prices on their websites as well? Or
services is much more difficult. The reason why I say this is unless it's a very cheap service like a car wash or something, right? Really cheap. If you're going to wash your car, there's no point not putting the price because it's only £5, £10, whatever it is, 50. Obviously, if you're a valeter and a quality car person, then it's going to go much more expensive. So if you've got a Bentley or something and you're going to want a valeter, then you might be talking hundreds of pounds for it. But that's a different level. But basic services, people want to know the price. How much it cost me to wash my car? £10, fine, I'll do it or not do it. But when it comes to services like a videographer, the problem with pricing, 2 problems. One, you attract price customers. People who go on your website see that your price for a wedding is £1,000. So I'm just going to go to the person up the road and say, that guy's doing it for 1,000. Can you do it for 800? And then you get somebody for 800. You go to the next person and says, that person's doing it for 800. Can you do it for 600? And you just keep going until you get them down to £400 or something. Now you're in a dangerous road if you're just going to compete on price alone. What you want to compete on in services as much as possible, even products, but products is a bit more complicated. We'll stick to services for now, is you want to compete on value. So you want what we call raise your hand marketing. We've got this massive UK tour. ActionCOACH is hosting a UK tour at the moment, ActionCOACH UK, with Brad Sugars and Marcus Sheridan coming over. So it's a massive tour. If you go on my website, you can see it. If you go on ActionCOACH UK .co.uk/tour, you can see the tour on there. And if you want to go on that, if you look at Marcus Sheridan, he's got a book out called They Ask You Answer. Marcus Sheridan's got this book that's rated as the #1 marketing book at the moment. And this guy's coming to the UK literally starting tomorrow in Bristol. I'm going to the one on the 4th on Friday. But the point he's making is that you want the customer to raise their hand to show they're interested. So landing pages and sites that allow customers to engage with you around services is the best way to do it. So for example, if you were getting married next year and I had a website that says I'm the best videographer in the world, please contact me, what would you do? How many people would contact me? Most people ain't contacting me because they don't know me. Why would they contact me over anybody else? I'm just one of millions of websites that says they can do videography. Why would they contact me? No reason whatsoever. But what if I had a landing page connected to my website that has a download that says the 7 most important things you need to know before you get a videographer for your wedding? How many people having a wedding would want to download that brochure? Loads of people, right?
Yeah.
Loads of people, because you're giving me free information that could help me make a good decision about getting a videographer for my wedding. But guess what happens? For me to get the information, I got to leave my data. So now you've got you know that I'm somebody probably getting married or thinking of getting married. And now you can ring me up and say, Asari, how did you find the leaflet? And now they've raised their hand. They've told you they're interested. Now you've got a database of people who are potentially getting married. So you're not waiting until they make the decision to get a videographer, which is going to be late in the day. You're getting them to raise their hand well in advance, so you can engage them, show your value, and therefore you might be able to charge more than somebody else because of the value you show them. Very different approach.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a question in the chat. I think this is back to when we were talking about the business development strategy. It says, how often should we be monitoring our KPIs, and should we fix those in our business plans?
Yes, KPIs are a massive aspect of understanding and measuring your business success. So KPIs, for people who don't know, is key performance indicators, something that tells you how your business is performing. It might sound obvious, but people don't have KPIs. In most businesses don't have them, but you should have them. So for example, if you're that videographer, how many inquiries do you get a week? If you get no inquiries a week, just once in a month, then your business is not going to grow to a certain size, right? So how many inquiries do you get a week? How many of them are referrals? How many of them are through the website? How many of them are through your landing page? How many of them are through an advert? Whatever the methods you have. So you want to measure these things on a regular basis. Now, your business plan should, if you go into that level of detail, you should be saying, how would you measure the success of the business, right? Is it turnover per month? Is it profit? Is it your margins? What is it your business is trying to do? Therefore, you should have an indicator to say if you're achieving it. And generally, monthly is usually significant enough, because most business owners are not reviewing these things very often. So once a month with a business coach, or with your business partner, or with yourself, just to go through your numbers is a great idea. If your business is high volume, then you really want weekly. Because if you're somebody who sells like 1,000 widgets a week or a month, then a month is a bit too long to know you're going off course. So if you've got a shop or a restaurant or something, you need to know how many people are coming in a restaurant per week. You don't want to wait a month and then find out, well, we're only getting 50 customers a week and we're drowning here. We're just not doing anything. You might need to send out something quickly and address that within a week. So it depends on your business, how often you need to measure your KPIs. But weekly is a great way to measure activity, which is the work you're actually doing. And then the outcomes from your activity can be measured monthly. But the quicker you know that you're making a mistake, the quicker you can correct it, right? Yeah. Imagine if you had your football team and you could only find out where you are in the league once a month. It would be a bit complicated, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You want to know where you are in the league now, like today. Like, who looks it up?
Yeah.
Your Premiership, right? And you just look on Sky app and you say, where are we in the league now? I don't want to wait a month to find out. It's too long.
Yeah. Well, they do it whilst the game's being played.
Even during the game, right?
Exactly,
oh my God, we're 1-1.
Yeah.
Where does that put us in the league? If we're 1-1 now and we draw this, are we above Liverpool, above Man United? Where are we in the league? And if we win, where are we going in the league? So people want to know data, right? Like that. But guess what? When you're running a business, people are running it without any data.
Yeah.
You're running
by the sounds of that, you sound like an Arsenal fan, by the way you're talking there.
Liverpool fan.
Oh, gosh. Well, they need a business coach, don't they?
Don't worry, we got Klopp.
So you got Klopp.
I love a bit of fun. I love a bit of fun with you here. Look, here's a great book worth reading.
Believers. Did he actually write that himself?
No, somebody wrote the book about him and his leadership style.
Okay.
Really, really good book.
Okay.
Highly recommend it.
He's a great motivator of people. So I do like Klopp. So what systems can a business use to keep themselves accountable to either their business plan or that business development strategy? What systems can they use?
Yeah, we have some lovely simple tools. One of the things I loved about ActionCOACH is that most of the tools we have are actually pretty simple, like one sheet of paper stuff. Because people, if you get too complicated, people won't follow it. You know, if you write some fantastic 50-page document, people won't read it because it's too long-winded. People want something simple. So one of the sheets we have is once you've had your strategy or your 90-day plan, whatever you call it, in place, is we suggest that you have what we call a eat the frog sheet. Let's give you an example of an eat the frog sheet. Here's an eat the frog sheet, literally an action daily list. And you see eat the frog here, literally up here, eat the frog. which is what's the frog you're going to eat every day that's going to make the biggest difference to your business that you don't want to do, you don't tend to do. There's no point put your clothes on and come to work because you're going to do that anyway, right? The eat the frog is the thing you're not going to do that you keep on not doing, like ringing a certain amount of business owners or picking up the phone, you know, doing your marketing, doing your cash flow forecasting, right? So this sheet, we say every day, fill this out, what you're going to do tomorrow. So Wednesday, what are you going to do literally on Wednesday? What's your eat the frog? What's your key actions you're going to take in your business? So there's the first one. The next one is have what we call a default diary. Have a diary that's
Sorry. We're just gonna. There's no sound from you. I think your mic is muted at the moment. Just bear with us, guys. Just gonna get this.
sorry, I must have clicked
Yeah.
it by accident. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah. I think the frog ate it. He said they should eat the frog. So, but yeah. So you were talking about we can hear you now. Yeah. So you're talking about the default diary.
Yeah, the default diary is brilliant. What a great idea is to have your week to view diary. So I recommend buying a week to view diary. I'm old school, right? All these people who tell me they organize themselves on a mobile phone, fantastic. If it works for you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But let me tell you how many business owners I know who've made an appointment with me, said it was in their phone, and 15 minutes before their phone tells them they're supposed to be in a meeting with me. But if you're in South London and you're supposed to be meeting me in Chingford, that ain't helping. You see, why I suggest a week to view diary is it's more organized. So unless you have your diary, if you're mobile, that doesn't work anyway. It's best to have a physical diary in your van or in your car, because in the morning or in the night, if you have a quick look at your diary, it tells you all what's going to happen tomorrow and all what's going to happen in the week. So you don't get surprised that there's a meeting at 2:00 with Asari. Does that make sense? If you use your mobile phone and you leave home in the morning, and you didn't have that clocked in your head 2:00, why are you going to look at your phone at 2:00 to see what you're doing at 2:00? People don't do that. So what happens is you get a reminder before, but it's too late. You need a reminder like 2 hours before, and even 2 hours before could be too late because you might have had to do some prep. There might have been something else you needed to do for that meeting. Maybe you left home and you haven't got the piece of paper on you. You haven't got the information with you. So I suggest a week to view diary for the investment of what, £10-15. You become much more organized. And there's a real reluctance people to have diaries. I don't know why. To me, it makes no sense. And my diary never goes wrong. You know how many people have to wait for them to go and look at their diary on their phone and look up this page and that page? It's taking all night to do it. When I've just got my diary, I just open it and say, well, when do you want me? Old school, simple. Have a diary on you. You can write notes in it. It never goes wrong. My diary never breaks down.
Yeah. No, I am really seeing the benefits of having a diary. Even though I keep the diary on my phone, I'm seeing the benefits of definitely having a diary. So what are the common things you see in your line of work when people look to scale their business? What are the things that people often need to do in order to scale a business?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, because this is where, as I said, first you have to have the numbers. If you're going to scale a business, the first thing is have that sense of numbers. A lot of people are really bad at their numbers. If you remember Dragon's Den, Reggae Sauce, right? The guy Reggae Sauce, Levi Reeves.
Yes.
When he went on Dragon's Den, I saw that live. I remember watching the program. He had no idea of his numbers. Now, he was lucky. He was lucky that somebody believed in him. Yeah. 2 dragons believed in him and they could see the potential, but he didn't know his numbers. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an accountant level of, you don't need to have an accountant's knowledge, but just scalability. So if you want to scale your business, you should at least have a sense of what that means. So what I mean by that is, if you want to be a millionaire selling reggae sauce, let's say the sauce is £2 a bottle, but to get it into Sainsbury's, you probably got to give it to them for at least £1 a bottle, right? So you're making £1, they make £1. So how much does it cost you to produce it? Let's say it costs you 50p to produce. Let's just keep it simple for the sake of the equation, right? So you're making 50p a bottle, you sell it to Sainsbury's for £1, and they make whatever they make. They sell oodles of them, whatever. But if you want to make £1 million, do you see that you have to sell 2 million bottles a year to make $1 million in a year? Once you have that sense in your head, it makes you realize that, oh, so I'm making these bottles in my kitchen. To make 2 million bottles, I need to make 20,000 bottles a week. I need a factory. So the reason why I say scaling, the first part of scaling, why we need the numbers, is because it straight away gives you a sense of, this is not something I can do in my house. I now need a factory, or I need somebody to produce this at a much bigger level, because 20,000 a week cannot be done manually. You've got to have a machine or some system to this, or you're going to have hundreds of staff. So that's the first bit of scaling, is what is the scale? How big do you want to be? And have you got the capacity to deliver that scale? So that's one of the first things. Then you go for the systems, the things you need to put in place to be able to scale your business up. So if you need a dark kitchen, for example, so people in lockdown went into what they call a dark kitchen, which is having a kitchen that's off-site. It's not on a high street, that you just produce the food off-site with no public, and you produce the food and send it to people's homes, for example. So you realize you need a kitchen of a scale and size that you can produce large quantities of foods, cakes, whatever, that you can't do in your living room. You can't do in your kitchen at home, because you don't have the oven size and et cetera, the pots and everything. So scaling is really important to think. If you're going to scale your business, all these things to think about, okay? There's great books out there called Scaling Up. There's books by Brad Sugars. We talk about, systemizing the business. We've got so many things that we can help you with. But those are some of the basics. And then thinking about how many staff does that mean I need? Do I need an office space? Do I need as I said, a factory space? Do I need vans on the road? So you start to think about the scale of the business. Now, usually I say to people, don't think that big unless you've got deep pockets and you've got investment, because you can't go from producing bottles in your house to going to selling to Sainsbury's in a factory without money. You need a lot of money up front, because Sainsbury's are not going to pay you up front probably. They're going to probably pay you in 90 days or something. So you're going to have to produce thousands of this before you even get paid. So those are the things to think about. So what I generally say is scale in an incremental way. So maybe you need to sell the bottles in a small scale retail shops first, so you can cope with the demand and the distribution, you get it right. Maybe cash and carry initially. So you have one distribution to a few cash and carries and they distribute it to their network. And then think about going up to Sainsbury's, etc. So it's about scaling. Same with if you're a plumber. Your first step is to plan to have enough work to give a second person some extra work. So you can start taking on a part-timer, apprentice, or another plumber. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So scaling is all about taking incremental steps, unless, as I said, you've got big investment or big money. If you haven't got the big money, then scale slowly. I normally say to people, scale slowly so you don't overcommit. Because what happens if you get a big order from Sainsbury's and they said they want 1 million bottles a year, and then next year they say, we don't want your bottles anymore, or you got to drop your price by 50p, you're bankrupt, because you scaled your whole business on one customer for 1 million bottles, which is great if they keep buying. But if they say, we don't want them anymore, or could you drop your price by 50p? Now you're making no money. You're actually working for free now for Sainsbury's. So you've got to be really careful. It's great to have a big customer, but if that big customer is your only customers, then they kind of control your life, because they got you over a barrel, really. So you've got to be really careful what you wish for sometimes.
Yeah. So basically scaling is every business should aspire to scale. But
if that's what you want.
Scale it sensibly. Don't go too far too quickly if the capacity is not there anyway to do that.
Absolutely. But not everybody wants to, which is fair enough, because I always say to the business owner, tell me what you want. It's not what I think, it's what do you want? Because if you want a business that pays you 30,000 a year and you want to do it alongside your day job, then if that's your dream, right? Everybody's different. But if you want a business that's going to earn you 30 million, then we're talking a different level. So I always say, what is it you want for you and your family, for your retirement, for your children, whatever? What is it you want? And then I can say to you, this is the sort of business you're probably going to need to give you the lifestyle that you just told me you wanted. So some people need 30 grand, 50 grand a year, and some people need 1 million a year. So everybody's at a different level of what they may need. And some businesses are scalable and some are not so scalable. And this is why the dragons then reject some businesses, because they say, we think you can sell, maybe make 100 grand or 200 grand, but I can't see this making 20 million.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not scalable to that size.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a few more questions before we end this session. So you're a business coach. What is the benefits of somebody having a business coach?
Very simple: accountability and strategic direction. It's kind of like the most successful people have coaches. This is the irony. The less successful people don't believe they need a coach, but the most successful people have coaches. So how is it that no major sports team in the world, no major athlete in the world, with a few really random exceptions, doesn't have a coach? So would we all agree that Bolt was the fastest runner in the world? I'm sure we'd agree, right? Now, Did he have a coach? Now, he didn't have a coach to teach him, to tell him how to run. He knows how to run, but does he have somebody objective who can look at him and look at the mistakes he might be making, or look at the small areas of improvement he could make, or bring in a vast amount of training skills or other skills to the party to make him a better sprinter? It's not that he doesn't know how to run. He knows how to run. He knows how to train. And footballers are the same. They know how to pass the ball. They know how to header. But who's looking at them and saying, okay, but you're not positioning yourself right, or you're not leaping in the right way, or you're not taking the right diet. That's why you're running out of steam, or you're not fit enough. All the additional things that we need to be a good business is a coach brings to the party to say, have you thought of this? Or have you got that in place? Or here's my suggestions that you could do this, or to coach it into the answers. Well, let's coach you, make sure you do it. So it's fundamental for accountability, because even in the simplest things in life, like just getting to the gym, if you don't have anybody to go with, you have to be super motivated to get up when it's cold and wet to get to the gym. So accountability is the fundamental thing of having a coach, making sure you do what you say you're going to do, and to stretch you more than you would if you did it on your own.
Yeah, I think the analogy of having a gym partner or someone that you go to the gym with is a very, very good one, because sometimes when you go with somebody, you're super pumped, super hyped, because you know that worst case scenario, I'm gonna at the end of this session, I'm preparing everything to, let's say, bench press 200 kg, and worst case scenario, I've got my spotting partner behind me to help me when I need it. But I'm not going to do that if no one's behind me, because that thing could drop on my chest, and if it drops on my chest,
but also if you don't turn up, your phone's going to be ringing. Where are you? You let me down. Where are you, Jacob? Yeah. And that's the power of accountability, isn't it? If you don't turn up to the gym, you've got your friend ringing you, or he's outside your house ringing your doorbell saying, where are you? Come on, let's go. And therefore that's very motivating, and you don't want to let them down. So you deliver. And that's the power of accountability. If you're just going to the gym on your own, you can just let yourself off and say, I don't feel like going today. And that's it.
Yeah. No, that's really true. I'm going to go into the quick fire round. How far, I think I know what you're going to say based on what you said before, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How far ahead should a business plan?
As far as to what you want to achieve in your business. So if you want to sell your business one day and you're 25, you might take you 20 years to build a business that's a multi-million-pound business. It's up to you. How long is a piece of string? But it depends on your dreams and goals. So if you're my age, which is 56 years old, and you want to retire at 60, then you need a 4-year strategy to retire at 60. Does that make sense? So it depends on what is your goal? What's your dream? What do you want to do? Do you want to sell the business and run off into the sunset with $1 million, or what do you want to do? So the plan should be as long as it needs to get you to the place that you want to get to. Does that make sense? But you can have a vision that's a massive vision, but you need a plan. So if you think Microsoft, when he had a vision that says he wanted to get everybody to have a computer on their desk, remember when he said this in the 1970s, a computer was the size of a house. So it sounded bonkers in the 1970s to say everybody's going to have a computer on their desk or in their hand. That was like, what? But that's a vision, right? But to build Microsoft, he had a long-term vision of how he's going to build Microsoft. So it depends on what your ambition is, how long it should be. But as long as it needs to achieve the things you need to achieve, but you can scale it back to the next 12 months and the next 3 months. But you can have big vision. So you can say, I want to get married, have 2 kids, and I want to have a lovely house. And you could be 18, right? So that could be a plan for the next 15 years, 20 years. But the thing is, you could still say, well, what am I going to do in the next year? Okay, I'm going to become a lawyer, or I'm going to start a degree, or I'm going to do something with my life. So you can always scale back and say, what can I do in the next 12 months? And what can I do in the next 3 months?
Yeah. Yeah. Richard Osborne, the founder of UK Business Forums, he had a conversation on our other podcast, UKBF Stories, with a gentleman called Brad Burton. Brad's also got a fantastic story. But Brad actually said something contrary to what we're actually talking about here, which is the importance of having a business plan. And he said, I didn't have a business plan, and I managed to exit my business for X amount of millions. What would you say about that scenarios like that, or that sort of mindset?
What I would say is anecdotes don't prove anything. So good on you. So if you're 95 years old and you smoke 60 cigarettes a day and you're still alive, great. But how does that work for most people? If most people smoke 60 cigarettes a day for 60 years, you're going to die, right? So the point is 80% of businesses don't get to year 5. 80% of businesses don't get to year 5. So the point is, why not go for high percentage? So it's not that you need a business plan, but why would you not have one if your percentage of success is higher if you have a strategy than if you don't have one? For every millionaire who's like this guy who made money, how many failed? What people don't read in the news is how many businesses didn't work because they're not on the telly. If they told you, if it was like COVID, you remember COVID where they used to say how many people died every day? If every day if the government said how many people's businesses failed today, and every day they kept telling you, you'd realize that it's a big problem, right? 80% of businesses don't get to year 5. So why would you not have a plan? The fact that, so it's a bit like like a betting man. You ever met somebody who bets on horses or bets on football or whatever? They only tell you when they win. They don't tell you all the bets when they lost. So it's great. Good for you. Good for you. You won the lottery. But how many people are going to win the lottery? It's a lottery. And that's the thing I say to any person in business is that, yes, for every millionaire who can tell you that they got £1 million or they did success without a plan, I can tell you thousands of others, in not millions, who, because they didn't have a plan, their business failed and they lost their house, or they made people redundant. You know, they had real pain. So why would you do it? So if you've got a house at the end of the road that you built yourself and it's still there 50 years later, great for you. But if I was building a house, I'm getting an architect. Right? I'm not building it myself because the risk is too high if you get it wrong. And it doesn't mean you can't go and build a house yourself and it might stay up for 50 years. Great. Well, good on you. But how many people are going to take that risk? And that's the point I'll make with this is it's not about one person who succeeds. And that's what I say, you know, when we say, oh, I'm not going to stop smoking because I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Yeah, but how many people get hit by a bus? But how many people die from smoking? You see, it's all about probability. Doesn't make sense, right?
No, no, you've made really good points there. Really good points there. Are there any apps or websites businesses can use to track their progress?
Yeah, there's some stuff that rivals us, but certainly with ActionCOACH, what I would say is you don't need. I don't think you need massive tools. One of the things is we can be so caught up with technology tools, and actually a simple tick sheet of getting your staff to tick how many people did they call today, how many people came in the shop, how many people rang us on the phone, how many people did X or Y. Yes, there is technology out there that you can use to track phones, to track all sorts of systems on your computer. And yes, we've got all that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't use those systems, but some of the basic systems of just knowing your cash flow and that just takes a simple exercise of going through your bank account every month and tracking the information and getting somebody to just put that onto a spreadsheet for you. A bookkeeper, an admin person, somebody, a relatively junior person could do that for you every month. And that would be enough to give you a data on your system. So there's QuickBooks, there's Xero, there's all these accounting packages that makes it much easier to manage your cash flow, manage your finances, to know what accounts are out overdue, who's not paid you. You can automate it all. Mine's all automated. I have to apologize to people because I had an account due today and the person paid me yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't change my QuickBooks quick enough last night. So this morning, there's an auto message saying a reminder to pay. And they sent me an email saying I paid yesterday. It's too efficient, right? But that's automation, because that's the power of automation. But seriously, we got some great systems. We've got Action Plan. We've got loads of different systems if you're a client that we can give you platforms to track your businesses. And watch out for ActionCOACH in 2023. I've been in a meeting with Brad in the last week where he advised us as ActionCOACHs what's coming in 2023. We got some phenomenal systems coming in, because we're going to be talking about membership to ActionCOACH, not clients, members. So we're going to create a membership platform where you can put all your data on the system. You can put all your KPIs, all your plans, your 90-day plans, all your tracking systems, your marketing plans, everything online live. And you can check it and your coach can have a look at it for you. And all your data is on the system. So we're going to create this phenomenal system for people to do it. Some of it's already in place, but we're taking it to another level in 2023. So some really exciting times ahead to help businesses to just track everything for you. So it's all on the system. You just press buttons and it's like, yeah, I know what my business has done. I know what the transactions are. I know what my marketing's doing. I know my numbers. And it gets exciting. You asked me for a testimonial. I had a client. He's just come back with me, actually. He's around 8 million. When I met him, he wasn't even 1 million. And I worked with him over 5 years. And we took that business and systemized the business so it doesn't work. It works without him. He doesn't have to do the day-to-day running the business. He's got a shop. And now he's opened a second shop in London. And the businesses are largely running without. But the new business needs a lot of work. So we're going to do some work to put things in place. But the thing is, when he had the numbers in his business, his eyes used to light up when we did the numbers. When I first mentioned numbers, his eyes used to close down. He used to get, oh God, we don't have to do the numbers, do we? But once you start knowing your numbers, it gets exciting. And it's like a football team or a sports team. When you know the numbers of your team, obviously if they're doing well, it's exciting to know your numbers, right? If you don't know the numbers, it's frustrating. You want to know the numbers. So in business, once you get into that, it gets really exciting when you start seeing the numbers in your business, because you can make better decisions, because knowledge is power, right? And most businesses fail because of lack of knowledge, lack of cash flow analysis, lack of financial knowledge, lack of information about what the business is doing. So it's so much easier when I sit down with a business owner and say, tell me your numbers, and we go through the numbers. It speaks for itself. It's so much easier. Imagine sitting down with your sports colleague and saying, you were crap today, Jacob. You didn't perform. And you say to me, no, it was brilliant. And we just argue with each other. But if I said to you, Jacob, before we talk, I'm going to show you your numbers. You ran the least yards, you crossed the least balls, you made the least tackles, and you took the least shots in the team. You're number 11 on every statistic in the team today. So your performance hasn't been good. You can't just come back and say, it's just my opinion versus your opinion. We have cold data to say you didn't put in the work. And we can even match you on the pitch and say, I told you to stay on the right and you spent most of the time in the middle. And all the data's there, so you can't even argue. But if with no data, we'll just argue all day, because you'll say you did and I say you didn't, and we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. That's a really, really good point. Thank you so much for this time, Asari, and so much value that you've given us. How do people get in touch with you? What's the best means for people to find out?
The easiest way to find me is to Google my name, Asari St.Hill, because it's unique. So if you Google my name, Asari St.Hill, just put it in Google. My websites all come up. I have a website for public speaking and doing work around equality and stuff. I have a website around marketing. And of course, I've got my ActionCOACH website as well. So I've got 3 websites you can jump on to find out about me. I'm there on social media. You can get me on LinkedIn, Facebook. Easy to find because my name is relatively unique. So if you Google my name, you can get me. And if you want a 15-minute conversation with me, just put it through my website. You can just fill out it's a very simple, fill out your form, put your details. I'll give you a ring and we'll have a 15-minute conversation just to find out a bit about your business, see if I can help. It's very straightforward. And if you haven't booked yet, get booked on the Brad Sugars and Marcus Sheridan Raise Your Hands, Raise Your Profits tour. I'm going on Friday because Chelmsford is the nearest to London. So I'm going to the Friday one, 2:00. And it's only £24 to get the two of the best marketing gurus on the planet. £24. I mean, that's crazy. Take a day off work, half a day off your business, and get down there on Friday because I've blocked mine out already. Got me there.
For those of you that didn't catch that, we'll be sending some information about how to get hold of Asari and even the 15-minute calls that he also does as well. I think there's someone in the comments that said, "Hi Asari, everyone's above Liverpool." Just to
enjoy it whilst it lasts. That's all I got to say.
Oh, but yes, that's all for today. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom on this subject matter, Asari. We're gonna let you go now. So have a great day, sir.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jacob. Absolute pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, thank you for joining us today. In the next couple of weeks, there will be another webinar on how to set up your business. A lot of people actually struggle setting up their businesses and their companies, but we have a live webinar with Graham Donnelly, the founder of First Formations, and he's going to give us some insights on how to simply do that. Followed by a Q&A with Richard Osborne himself on further information about the industry and then what people just need to look out for now and in the future. So there'll be more information going out on that in the coming days and weeks. But thank you guys for joining us today. Have a great day.